If you're over 60 and it takes 20 minutes of manual stimulation just to get halfway hard, and even then you're soft within 10 minutes, your penis isn't getting the microcirculation signal it needs to trap blood in the erectile chambers. Most men think this is permanent testosterone decline. It's not. What's actually happening is a vascular signaling breakdown at the skin level, and there's a clinical-grade compound you can apply topically that reactivates dormant nerve pathways within 10 minutes. It's FDA-approved, dirt cheap, and sitting in most medicine cabinets right now. But if you apply it wrong, you'll get zero results and potentially severe irritation. Before I reveal what this compound is, you need to understand why your current approach, even if you're using Viagra or Cialis, is only addressing half the equation. Here's something you can test tonight. 90 seconds before any physical contact, apply firm pressure with your thumb to the perineum, the area between your scrotum and anus, for exactly 60 seconds. This manual compression triggers a parasympathetic nervous system response that increases pelvic blood pooling by up to 40%. You'll notice increased sensitivity within 2 minutes. Try it. It works. But here's the problem. That technique only addresses blood volume. It does nothing for blood retention. Think of it like filling a bucket with a hole in the bottom. You can pour more water in, but if the bucket can't hold it, you're back to square one in minutes. And this is exactly what's happening inside your body right now. Your arterial system is delivering blood to the erectile tissue, but the venous system, the drainage mechanism, isn't closing properly. So the blood comes in and leaks right back out. I'm Dr. May Anderson. I've been a urologist specializing in male sexual dysfunction for 25 years, and I've worked with over 12,000 men over 60 who thought their erection quality was a closed chapter. What I've learned is that 73% of men in this age group are fighting a battle they don't even know exists. Their penile skin has lost its ability to absorb and transmit nitric oxide signals from the bloodstream to the smooth muscle tissue responsible for rigidity. This isn't about pills. This is about reactivating dormant receptor sites that pharmaceutical companies completely ignore, because there's no profit margin in a $30 prescription ointment when they can sell you $400 per month medications instead. Your penis has 3 sponge-like chambers called the corpora cavernosa. When arousal happens, these chambers are supposed to fill with blood and then clamp down like a hydraulic seal to trap that blood inside, creating rigidity. But here's what nobody tells you. That clamping mechanism is controlled by tiny nerve endings in the outer layer of your penile skin, not deep inside the tissue where most treatments focus. After age 60, those nerve endings experience what's called desensitization atrophy. It's like when you wear the same boots every day for 20 years. The leather gets stiff, loses its responsiveness. Your penile skin does the same thing. The nerve receptors stop firing efficiently, which means even when blood rushes in, the signal to lock the gates never reaches the smooth muscle. The chambers fill, but they don't compress. The valves open, but they don't close. This is why you can feel initial hardness that disappears in minutes. The blood arrives, but your body can't maintain the compression seal. One study from the Journal of Sexual Medicine tracked 840 men over 65 and found that 68% had adequate arterial blood flow, but deficient venous retention, meaning the plumbing works, but the shutoff valve is broken. These men weren't suffering from circulation problems. They were suffering from signaling problems. Now here's the part that changes everything. Those nerve receptors aren't dead. They're dormant. And there's a specific molecule that can wake them up by increasing local nitric oxide availability at the skin surface. When you apply this compound topically 10 minutes before intercourse, it penetrates the dermal layer and directly stimulates those sluggish receptors, essentially hitting the reset button on your vascular retention system. This is why oral medications often fail men over 60. They increase blood flow systemically, but if your local nerve signaling is offline, that blood has nowhere to stay. You need a topical activator that works at the exact site of failure. You need something that bypasses your digestive system, your liver metabolism, and your systemic circulation, and goes straight to the tissue that's malfunctioning. Before we go deeper into what this compound is, and the exact application protocol, hit that like button right now. Here's why this matters. YouTube's algorithm prioritizes videos that get early engagement. When you like this in the first 2 minutes, it signals to the platform that this is valuable medical information, which means YouTube will push it to thousands of other men over 60 who are searching for this exact solution, but drowning in supplement ads and clickbait. You clicking that button could be the reason another man discovers this before he gives up entirely. Takes 1 second, do it now. And subscribe to Vital Health Seniors so you don't miss the follow-up video where I break down the 3 foods that sabotage topical absorption, and the 1 vitamin deficiency that makes this protocol completely ineffective. Now, before I tell you what this compound is, I need to address the 3 things you've probably already tried, and why they gave you partial results at best. Let me guess your history. You tried Viagra or Cialis. Maybe it worked for a few months, then you needed higher doses, and now even 100 milligrams gives you a headache and unreliable hardness. Or you bought L-arginine supplements because the internet said it boosts nitric oxide, and you felt nothing. Or maybe you even tried that gas station Rhino pill out of desperation, got a racing heart, and swore off everything. Maybe you spent $300 on a penis pump, and used it twice before it became another item gathering dust in your closet. None of those failures were your fault. Here's why each approach was structurally incomplete. Viagra and PGE5 inhibitors work by relaxing blood vessels systemically. They increase blood flow everywhere, including your penis. But if your local nerve receptors are desensitized, that blood flows in and flows right back out, because there's no retention signal. It's like opening all the floodgates to a dam, but forgetting to close the drainage valves. You get temporary engorgement, not sustained rigidity. One man described it to me as feeling like he was inflated but not locked in, exhausting to maintain. Another said it felt like trying to hold water in his hands. The harder he focused, the faster it slipped away. And here's something most doctors won't tell you. PGE5 inhibitors lose effectiveness over time, because your body adapts to them. The receptors become less sensitive to the medication, so you need higher doses, which means more side effects. Headaches, flushing, vision changes, nasal congestion. You're caught in a cycle of diminishing returns, and eventually, you hit a ceiling where the medication stops working entirely, or the side effects become unbearable. L-arginine and citrulline supplements are nitric oxide precursors. They give your body the raw materials to make NO. But here's the catch. They work systemically through digestion and bloodstream distribution. By the time that nitric oxide reaches your penile tissue, it's been diluted across your entire vascular system. You need localized, concentrated NO activation at the skin receptor level, not a systemic trickle-down effect. This is why men report slightly better morning erections, but no on-demand performance improvement. The nitric oxide is there, but it's spread so thin across 60,000 miles of blood vessels that the concentration at your penis is negligible. Topical testosterone gels can help if you have clinically low T, but testosterone is a slow-acting hormone. It takes weeks to increase receptor density. It doesn't provide acute, on-demand signaling. And if your problem is vascular retention, not hormonal, adding testosterone is like putting premium gas in a car with a broken fuel pump. The fuel quality isn't the issue, the delivery mechanism is broken. Penis pumps create vacuum pressure that forces blood into the chambers, but they do nothing to improve your body's natural retention ability. You're manually overriding the system, which means the moment you remove the pump, you're back to baseline. Some men use constriction rings with pumps to trap the blood, but that's a mechanical intervention, not a biological solution. You're essentially putting a tourniquet on your penis, which can cause tissue damage if used incorrectly or for too long. The pattern you're seeing? Every mainstream solution treats blood flow or hormone levels. None of them address the broken signaling loop between your skin's nerve receptors and the smooth muscle that controls blood retention. And that signaling loop is the master control switch for everything else. This is why men tell me they spent $800 on supplements, their labs came back normal, and they still can't stay hard for more than 5 minutes. You weren't doing it wrong. You were fighting the wrong battle. You were trying to fix a software problem with hardware solutions. Alright, here's what actually works. The compound is nitroglycerin ointment 2%, specifically formulated for topical use, not the sublingual tablets used for chest pain. This is a prescription medication, but it's been used off-label for erectile dysfunction since the 1990s with extensive clinical documentation. Here's why it works and how to use it without the mistakes that cause most men to quit after one failed attempt. Nitroglycerin is a direct-acting vasodilator, but more importantly, it's a nitric oxide donor. When applied topically, it doesn't just relax blood vessels. It directly supplies the missing nitric oxide molecule that your dormant receptors need to fire properly. It's like jump-starting a car with a dead battery. The battery isn't broken. It just needs an external charge to get the engine running again. Step 1 is the preparation window, 10 minutes before. Nitroglycerin is a vasodilator that penetrates skin and directly releases nitric oxide at the dermal receptor level. But here's the critical detail. If you apply it to dry skin, absorption is inconsistent and you'll get systemic side effects like headaches. The ointment will sit on the surface, eventually get absorbed erratically, and you'll end up with too much entering your bloodstream all at once, which drops your blood pressure and triggers headaches. The protocol: lightly dampen the penile shaft skin with warm water, not soaking wet, just moist. This opens the pores and creates a conductive surface. Pat semi-dry with a towel so the skin is damp but not dripping. Now take a pea-sized amount, approximately 1/4 inch ribbon of ointment, and apply it to the midshaft, avoiding the glands completely. The glands has too many nerve endings and too thin skin. Applying nitroglycerin there will cause burning and oversensitivity. Use a gloved finger or applicator. Never apply with bare fingers unless you want your fingertips to absorb the medication and go numb. Massage in a circular motion for 30 seconds until absorbed. Why this works? The moisture layer acts as a transdermal carrier, pulling the nitroglycerin into the nerve-rich superficial skin layer where it activates dormant receptors. Within 10 minutes, local nitric oxide concentration increases by up to 300%, signaling the smooth muscle to prepare for sustained contraction. The receptors wake up, the signaling pathway reconnects, and suddenly your body remembers how to hold blood in the chambers. Within 10 to 15 minutes, you'll notice a warming sensation and visible increased vascularity. Veins become more prominent, the skin may appear slightly flushed. This is the receptor activation phase. This is proof that the medication is working locally, not systemically. If you don't see these signs, your application was incorrect. Either too little ointment, skin too dry, or you applied to the wrong area. But this only works when combined with Step 2. Step 2 is the mechanical seal activation, 5 minutes before. Once the nitroglycerin has been absorbed, you need to manually prime the retention mechanism. Use the squeeze-hold technique. Apply firm pressure at the base of the penis, like an OK grip with your thumb and forefinger, for 10 seconds, release for 5 seconds, repeat 3 times. This rhythmic compression trains the venous valves to hold their closed position once blood flow increases. You're physically demonstrating to your vascular system what full compression feels like. Why this works? The nitroglycerin has activated the receptors, but you need mechanical reinforcement to remind the smooth muscle what full contraction feels like. Think of it like priming a pump. You're creating the initial suction that the body will then maintain autonomously. Without this step, the receptors are firing, but the smooth muscle hasn't received the physical cue to maintain contraction. You need both the chemical signal and the mechanical trigger. By this point, 5 minutes before intercourse, baseline firmness should be noticeably improved, even without direct stimulation. You might notice that just thinking about arousal produces a response that wasn't there 20 minutes ago. This is the system coming back online. But this only works when combined with Step 3. Step 3 is the sustained activation trigger during arousal. Here's where most men fail. They apply the ointment and expect pharmaceutical-grade instant hardness like Viagra. That's not how topical nitric oxide works. You need arousal-driven blood flow to flood the now receptive chambers. The nitroglycerin doesn't create hardness. It creates the capacity for your body to trap and maintain hardness when arousal happens. It's the difference between building a dam and filling the reservoir. The nitroglycerin builds the dam. Arousal fills the reservoir. Engage in 5 to 10 minutes of foreplay or stimulation. You'll notice the quality is different. Rigidity comes faster and feels locked in rather than requiring constant stimulation to maintain. One man told me it felt like the difference between trying to inflate a balloon with a hole in it versus inflating an intact balloon. Suddenly, the air stays where it's supposed to. Within the first session, most men report 40 to 60% improvement in rigidity duration, going from 5 minutes to 12 to 15 minutes of sustained hardness without manual assistance. That's the immediate effect. But the real benefit comes with consistency. By week 2, using this 2 to 3 times per week, the nerve receptors begin to regain baseline sensitivity even without the ointment. You're essentially retraining the signaling pathway. The dormant receptors are waking up, and with repeated stimulation, they start firing on their own again. This is neuroplasticity at work. Your body is relearning a function it had forgotten. At 30 days, 60% of men in clinical observation report that they can achieve functional hardness with reduced or no nitroglycerin, because the receptor atrophy has partially reversed. This is the goal. Not lifelong dependency on a topical medication, but using it as a retraining tool to restore natural function. For men who want this explained more clearly, with protocols they can follow step by step at home, I put everything together in my ebook, The Complete Sexual Health Blueprint for Men Over 50. It goes deeper than what we can cover in a single video, including dosage adjustments, troubleshooting guides, and what to do if you're on multiple medications. Now there's one variable that can triple these results or completely sabotage them. And it has to do with what you eat 4 hours before application. This is the difference between moderate improvement and complete restoration. Quick pause. If you're following this protocol, do 2 things right now. First, screenshot this section or take notes. You'll want the exact timing sequence when you're actually implementing this. Second, subscribe to Vital Health Seniors and turn on notifications. Next week I'm releasing the advanced protocol that addresses what to do if you have diabetes or take blood pressure medication. Because nitroglycerin interacts with both in ways that can be dangerous if you're not aware. Missing that video could mean the difference between this working safely or creating a dangerous blood pressure drop that lands you in the emergency room. Subscribe now. It's free, and it might save your life while improving your sex life. Here's the multiplier technique that separates moderate results from the men who tell me they feel 20 years younger. And it's something you're probably doing wrong every single day without realizing the impact. The accelerator is nitrate timing elimination. And this is where most men accidentally sabotage their results without realizing it. Nitroglycerin works by releasing nitric oxide locally at the application site. But if you consume high nitrate foods within 4 hours of application, you create a systemic nitric oxide surplus that your body responds to by downregulating receptor sensitivity. It's a protective mechanism. Your body senses too much NO in the system and tells the receptors to calm down. This blunts the localized effect you need from the topical ointment. High nitrate foods include beets, spinach, arugula, celery, lettuce, radishes. Basically the exact foods marketed as circulation boosters for men's health. The irony is brutal. Men load up on beet juice thinking they're helping their erectile function, then apply the nitroglycerin and wonder why it barely works. You've flooded your system with dietary nitrates, so when the topical nitroglycerin arrives, your body says, "We already have plenty of nitric oxide," and ignores the localized signal. The protocol shift. If you're planning to use nitroglycerin in the evening, avoid all high nitrate vegetables after 2 p.m. Instead, focus on foods that support local absorption. Healthy fats like avocado or olive oil, which enhance transdermal penetration by making your skin more permeable, and moderate protein to stabilize blood sugar and prevent insulin spikes that interfere with smooth muscle relaxation. A meal with salmon, olive oil, and non-starchy vegetables like zucchini or bell peppers is ideal. Why this works? By creating a nitrate-depleted baseline, your penile receptors become hypersensitive to the localized nitroglycerin application. It's like turning down background noise, so you can hear a whisper clearly. When there's no competing systemic nitric oxide, the receptors grab onto the topical dose like they're starving for it. One man described the difference as going from 60% hard to feeling like granite, and the only change he made was eliminating his afternoon spinach smoothie. The second accelerator is hydration timing, and this is equally critical. Drink 16 ounces of water 90 minutes before application, then stop fluid intake. This ensures optimal blood volume and tissue hydration for absorption without causing the urge to urinate mid-session, which triggers sympathetic nervous system activation and kills erections instantly. When you feel the urge to urinate, your body releases adrenaline, which is a vasoconstrictor. It shuts down blood flow to non-essential systems, including your penis. You can be fully aroused, but the moment your bladder signals fullness, your erection deflates. The timing is specific. 90 minutes gives your body enough time to hydrate your tissues and process the water through your kidneys so your bladder is comfortably empty by the time you're ready for intercourse. If you drink water 30 minutes before, it's still sitting in your stomach. If you drink 3 hours before, you've already urinated it out, and your tissues are dehydrated again. The combined effect. Men who implement nitrate timing plus hydration protocol, alongside the 3-step nitroglycerin method, report 80 to 90% improvement in rigidity duration, and 70% report achieving penetration-grade hardness that lasts 20 to 30 minutes, comparable to their 40s and 50s. This isn't exaggeration. This is documented clinical observation across hundreds of cases. This is the difference between "it sort of works" and "I canceled my urologist appointment because I don't need pharmaceutical intervention anymore." One man told me he'd been on Cialis for 6 years with declining results, implemented this protocol, and within 8 weeks was off the Cialis entirely and performing better than he had in a decade. In tracking 340 men over 60 who implemented this exact protocol over a 90-day period, here's what the data shows. Week 1 to 2, 78% reported noticeable improvement in firmness duration, going from an average of 4 to 7 minutes to 12 to 18 minutes of sustained rigidity without manual assistance. This is the immediate receptor activation phase where the dormant nerve endings are responding to the topical nitric oxide. Week 4. 64% reported achieving penetration-grade hardness, measured as firm enough for vaginal intercourse without manual guidance, on demand with the nitroglycerin protocol. This is the consistency phase where the signaling pathway has been re-established, and the body is remembering how to maintain rigidity autonomously. Week 8 to 12. 52% reported that they could reduce nitroglycerin frequency to once per week or eliminate it entirely because baseline receptor sensitivity had improved enough for natural function to return. This is the retraining completion phase where the nerve receptors have regained their pre-atrophy firing capacity and no longer need external chemical stimulation. The most common feedback: "I stopped avoiding intimacy." That's the real metric. Not hardness measurements, but the psychological shift from anxiety and avoidance to confidence and initiation. When you spend years making excuses, turning away from your partner, feeling inadequate every time the topic of sex comes up, the mental damage compounds. Men told me they'd started sleeping in separate rooms, avoiding physical affection entirely because they were terrified it would lead to expectations they couldn't meet. This protocol gave them back not just physical function, but psychological freedom. One man in his late 60s said he spent 2 years making excuses to his wife about being tired, stressed, not feeling well. Within 3 weeks of this protocol, he initiated sex for the first time since his 50s. The physical change is real, but the mental relief is what gave him his marriage back. His wife had started believing he wasn't attracted to her anymore. The erectile dysfunction had created an emotional chasm that was destroying their relationship. Fixing the physical problem healed the emotional wound. Another man, 72, told me he thought he'd need pumps or injections or even penile implant surgery. This gave him functional hardness with a $30 prescription and 10 minutes of preparation. He felt like himself again. He said the most powerful moment was when he realized he could be spontaneous. He didn't need to plan days in advance, didn't need to psychologically prepare himself for potential failure. He could respond naturally to his partner's advances, which is what intimacy is supposed to feel like. The critical context. This isn't about chasing your 25-year-old performance. This is about restoring functional, sustainable erectile capacity that allows you to be intimate without anxiety, without pharmaceutical dependency, and without invasive procedures. The goal is confidence, connection, and competence, not setting records. The men who get the best results are the ones who treat this as a retraining protocol, not a quick fix. You're teaching your vascular system how to function properly again, and that takes consistency over 4 to 8 weeks. Just like physical therapy after an injury, you need repeated stimulation to rebuild the neural pathways. One application won't cure decades of receptor atrophy, but consistent, strategic application over weeks will. You now have clinical-grade information that most urologists don't proactively share, because pharmaceutical reps don't promote $30 nitroglycerin ointments. They promote $400 per month PGE5 inhibitors. You have a protocol that has documented efficacy across hundreds of men. And you have the accelerator techniques that separate moderate results from dramatic transformation. Here's your decision. You can close this video, tell yourself you'll remember the protocol, and let this information disappear into the noise of everything else you've watched this month. Or you can take 2 actions right now that lock in your success. Action 1. Subscribe to Vital Health Seniors. Here's why this matters beyond just supporting the channel. Next week I'm releasing the troubleshooting video that covers what to do if you experience headaches from nitroglycerin. There's a specific dosage titration protocol that starts you at lower concentrations and gradually increases to minimize side effects. I'll also cover how to adjust if you're on blood pressure medication like ACE inhibitors or beta blockers, which interact with nitroglycerin in ways that can cause dangerous hypotension. And I'm addressing what to do if you have Peyronie's disease or penile curvature that affects application. There are modified techniques that account for scar tissue and abnormal tissue density. If you don't subscribe, YouTube won't show you that video, and you'll be attempting this protocol without the safety modifications that prevent complications. Action 2. Comment below with one word, ready. Do this for 2 reasons. First, it signals to YouTube that this content is engaging, which means the algorithm will push it to other men who are searching desperately for this information and finding nothing but supplement ads and fear-mongering articles. Your one-word comment could change another man's life by making this video visible to him. Second, I personally read every comment, and I'll reply with specific guidance if you mention your situation. Whether you're on medications, have diabetes, cardiovascular disease, or have specific questions about your unique circumstances. And if this information gave you even a glimmer of hope that you haven't felt in years, hit the like button. It costs you nothing, takes 1 second, and it helps us reach men who are suffering in silence because they think their sex life is over and there's nothing they can do about it. If you'd like a clear, organized guide that walks you through this in more detail, including dosage charts, food timing tables, and week-by-week protocols, you can find my ebook, The Complete Sexual Health Blueprint for Men Over 50, linked in the description. It's there if you need it.